Dear learners, welcome to the course of Marketing Research. In earlier sessions, we discussed data preparation and processing, in which editing, coding, and classification of data were covered. In the process of tabulating the collected data, we identified appropriate categories for the information desired, sorted the data by categories, made initial counts of responses, and used summarizing measures to provide an economy of description, and thereby facilitate understanding. For your reference, we can recall the 7 steps involved in the process of data tabulation. These are: first, classify or categorize. That means establish suitable classification for the data that has been gathered. Second, data editing and coding. Third, create the data file by entering the data into the computer. Fourth is error checking and missing data handling. Fifth, create new variables in case of transformation. Sixth, weight subclass for data in order to align the relative representation of sample subgroups with population proportions. Weights are frequently employed. Then tabulate to provide a brief summary of each variable's answers for the analysis. However, tabulating data is just the first step. To truly understand what the data means, we need to analyze and interpret it. Meaningful interpretation of data turns numbers into knowledge and uses that knowledge to make better sense of the data. In this session, we will discuss two main categories of descriptive statistics: measures of central tendency and measures of variability. The learning outcomes of this session are: evaluate the significance of mean, median, and mode in summarizing the central characteristics of a data set. Then, to compute various measures of central tendency to accurately describe the core characteristics of data. Then, understand the concept of variability and its importance in analyzing data spread. Next outcome is to compute measures of variation like range and standard deviation. Explain the concept of skewness and its importance in interpreting data distribution. Similarly, discuss the concept of kurtosis and its importance in interpreting data distributions. So let's see what is descriptive statistics. Descriptive analysis primarily describes what has happened in the past. It refers to the analysis, summary, and presentation of findings related to a data set derived from a sample or entire population. It serves as a foundation for data visualization. It allows for data to be presented in a meaningful and understandable way. This in turn allows for a simplified interpretation of the data set under investigation. So, descriptive statistics comprises 3 main categories: frequency distribution, measures of central tendency, and measures of variability. As we know, frequency distribution is a way of organizing data into categories and counting how many things fall into each category. This helps us understand the data better by making it more organized and easier to analyze. For a more visual representation, different charts come into play. For example, bar charts excel at comparing categories side by side, while histograms provide a smoother picture of how data is distributed across ranges. Then pie charts are handy for visualizing proportions of the whole, and line charts can track changes in frequencies over time. By choosing the right chart, a frequency distribution effectively communicates the patterns and trends within the data. Now let us discuss the measures of central tendency. In statistics, measures of central tendency serve to summarize a data set by identifying a single representative value. In simpler terms, the measures of central tendency provide a single value that is representative of the entire series, and it is easier to make well-informed decisions when a complicated data series can be represented by a single value. As a result, we are able to look beyond the specifics of individual data points and instead pursue the big picture with a more holistic understanding. So, for understanding the significance of measures of central tendency, take an example. It is impossible to remember the individual incomes of millions of earning people of India. But if the average income is obtained, we get one single value that represents the entire population. Measures of central tendency also enable us to compare two or more sets of data to facilitate comparison. For example, the average sales figures of April may be compared with the sales figure of previous months. Uh, a good measure of central tendency should possess as far as the following properties. First, it should be easy to understand, simple to compute. Based on all observations, it should be uniquely defined, should be capable of further algebraic treatment, then it should not be unduly affected by extreme values. Now, we will discuss three measures of central tendency: mean, median, and mode, one by one. The mean is the most commonly used and readily understood measure of central tendency. In statistics, the term mean or average refers to any of the measures of central tendency. The arithmetic mean is defined as being equal to the sum of the numerical values of each and every observation divided by the total number of observations. Symbolically, it is represented as x bar is equal to summation of x divided by n, where summation of x indicates the sum of the values of all the observations and n is the total number of observations. For example, recall Mohan's challenges in selling his organic products. We already discussed this case in our earlier sessions. To understand his organic produce sales challenges, Mohan has tracked sales data for conventionally farmed and organically farmed specific vegetable, say tomatoes, over a 6-month period as shown in table 1. So in column 1, the months are given. In column 2, sales of conventional potatoes are given, and in column 3, the sales figure of organic potatoes are given. For the conventional potatoes, the sales in January was 100, in February 120, in March 110, in April 90, in May 80, and in June 130. Similarly, the sales of organic potatoes were in January 80, in February 75, March 65, in April 70, in May 85, in June 60. So first step is that we have to add all these values. So if we add the sales of conventional potatoes, so the total will be 630. Similarly, when we add sales of organic potatoes for the 6 months, it comes to 435. And as we know, the number of months are 6, so we can calculate the mean. X bar is equal to summation of x by n. Here we can put the values. So for conventional potatoes, the summation of x is 630. So it is divided by 6 to we get 105 kg. Similarly, for organic potatoes, the total 435 is divided by 6 and we will get 72.5 kg. Looking to these figures of mean sales of conventional tomatoes and organic tomatoes, we may conclude that Mohan's concern about selling organic products is justified, as the mean sales of conventionally farmed tomatoes for a 6-month period is 105 kg, whereas the mean sales of organically farmed tomatoes for the same period is 72.5 kg. Similarly, for group data, the arithmetic mean can be calculated by using the formula x bar is equal to summation of fx divided by n, where x is midpoint of various classes, f is the frequency for corresponding class, and n is the total frequency, that means summation of f. For example, price range and accordingly sales of organic tomatoes are given in table 2. In first column, the price ranges are given. One is below 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and 50 to 60. In second column, frequencies in kgs sold are given, and in the third column, the midpoints of the range are given, and in the last column, the fx is given. That means frequency multiplied by the midpoints. So the frequencies below 20 was 80, 20 to 30, 50, 30 to 40, 30, 40 to 50, 15, 50 to 65. So here we can calculate the midpoints. So for example, for the third row, 20 plus 30 divided by 2. So we are getting 25. In the same way, we can calculate the midpoints, and by multiplying the frequency with midpoints, we are getting the figure fx. See here, below 20 we are getting 800. Similarly, we are getting the figures for other ranges. And when we add the summation of fx, so it comes 4050. And n, that is a summation of frequency, f is 180. So we can get the mean for this given data by putting the values in formula x bar is equal to summation of fx by n. So here summation of fx is 4050, n is 180. So by putting this value, we get x bar is 22.5 per kg. The arithmetic mean is based on all the observations, and it has several useful mathematical properties, such as the sum of the deviations from the arithmetic mean is always 0. Second, the sum of the square deviations of the observations from the mean is minimum. That means the total of the squares of the deviations from any other values, then the mean value will be greater than the total sum of squares of deviations from mean. And the third, the arithmetic means of several sets of data may be combined into a single arithmetic mean. So let's see the advantages of mean. It is well-defined calculation, then simple and straightforward. It considers all the data. That means the mean incorporates all observations within a data set, offering a holistic representation of the central tendency. It is suitable to mathematical analysis. The mean integrates seamlessly with other mathematical operations for further analysis. It is order independent. Arrangement of data in ascending or descending order is not necessary. It is relative robustness. Compared to other averages, the mean is less sensitive to extreme values in smaller samples. However, there are some disadvantages of mean. One is it is sensitive to outliers. The mean is highly sensitive to the presence of outliers, which are data points that fall significantly outside the typical range. This can lead to a misrepresentation of the central tendency of the data set. It has sometimes limited interpretability without calculation. Unlike the median, the mean cannot be readily determined by simply inspecting the data. It requires calculation, which can limit its immediate interpretability. And the one disadvantage is its inability to handle qualitative data. The mean is only applicable to quantitative data, meaning data that can be expressed numerically. For qualitative data such as intelligence or honesty, which are measured on subjective scales, the mean is not an appropriate measure of central tendency. And the one disadvantage is inequality in skewed distributions. The mean can be a misleading measure of a central tendency for data sets with significant skewness. In skewed distributions where the data is clustered heavily towards one end, the mean can be pulled in that direction, potentially misrepresenting the most common value. The median may provide a more accurate representation in such cases. Now, let us discuss the second measure of central tendency, that is median. Median is that value which divides the distribution into two equal parts. 50% of the observations in the distribution are above the value of median, and other 50% of the observations are below this value of median. The median is the value of the middle observation when the series is arranged in order of size or magnitude. This is very important. It is to be arranged before calculating the median. If the number of observations is odd, then the median is equal to one of the original observations. If the number of observations is even, then the median is the arithmetic mean of the two middle observations. For example, case 1 is that if number of observations n is odd, then the middle term of the series will be n plus 1 by 2, and this will be the value of the median. In case if number of observations is even, Then there will be two middle terms. This will be n by 2, this is the first term, and the second term will be n by 2 plus 1. In this case, the arithmetic mean of their value will be considered to be the value of the median. For example, if the income of 7 persons in rupees arranged in ascending order are given as 1100, 1200, 1350, 1500, 1550, 1600, 1800. So here there are 7 people. So it is a case of odd. So n plus 1 by 2, that means 7 plus 1 by 2 comes to 4. The fourth observation is the median value, and the value of median is 1500. Now let's add the new person with an income of rupees 1850. So we have added 1850 in the income series. Since we now have an even number of people 8, so n by 2, that means 8 by 2 is equal to 4, and n by 2 plus 1, that means 4 plus 1 is equal to 5. So the median value is the average of the fourth and fifth highest incomes. So we add 1500 plus 1550 and it is divided by 2. So we get the median value as 1525. The important mathematical property of the median is that the sum of the absolute deviations about the median is a minimum. There are some advantages of median. Although the median is not as popular as the arithmetic mean, it does have the advantage of being both easy to determine and easy to explain. Extreme values do not affect the median as strongly as the mean, as the median is affected by the number of observations rather than the values of the observations. Hence, it will be less distorted as a representative value than the arithmetic mean. Median can be computed even when data is of qualitative nature, such as measures of the color, honesty, beauty, etc. An additional advantage of the median is that it may be computed for an open-end distributions. There are certain disadvantages of median. The first is the major disadvantage of median is that it is not suitable for algebraic treatment, and further mathematical treatment cannot be done. Second, as median is a positional average, data must be arranged in order before any calculation can be performed, and sometimes it may not be a true representative of the data. Now come to the third measure of central tendency, that is the mode. The mode is the typical or commonly observed value in a set of data. It is defined as the value which occurs most often or with the greatest frequency. The dictionary meaning of the term mode is most usual. So the value of the variable which occurs most frequently in a distribution is called the mode. For example, the series of number includes 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 8, 9. Here value of the mode is 8 because it occurs the maximum number of times, that is 3, whereas 5 comes 2 times. In a distribution, there may be 1, 2 or more than 2 modes as shown in figure 1. A unimodal distribution possesses a single central peak indicating a concentration of value around a dominant mode. Conversely, a bimodal distribution features 2 distinct peaks suggesting the presence of potentially separate underlying processes or populations. Multimodal distributions with more than 2 peaks can also occur. Advantages of mode, the first advantage is this concept finds wide application in production planning. For example, shoe manufacturers prioritize production of the most commonly demanded size to optimize efficiency and cater to the majority of the customers and to maximize sales. However, this approach can lead to limited availability for those with less common sizes. Like median, the value of mode is not affected by extreme values, and its value can be determined in open-end distributions. There are certain disadvantages of mode. The first is multiple modes cause confusion. Where the value of mode is not unique, it is difficult to interpret and compare. Second, it ignores some data. The mode only considers the most frequent value, leaving out information about the rest of the data points. Third, it has limited mathematical usefulness that makes it less practical for in-depth analysis. In many cases, it is considered as a concept. In practice, the mode is more helpful as a basic idea of most frequent value than as a comprehensive measures of central tendency. So we can summarize the measures of central tendency based on levels of measurement as Mean assumes numerical values and requires interval data. Median requires ordering of values and can be used with both interval and ordinal data. Mode only involves determination of most common value and can be used with interval, ordinal and nominal data. So far in this session, we have discussed the various measures of central tendency that are used to provide a single representative value for a given set of data. However, the single value alone cannot adequately describe a set of data. Therefore, we will now discuss important characteristics of a distribution such as the concept of variation, skewness and kurtosis. Let us first discuss the concept of variation. A measure of variation describes the spread or scattering of the individual values around the central value. To illustrate the concept of variation, let us consider the data given in table 3. From table 3, we can see that the average sales for firms A, B and C is the same, that is rupees 5,000. And we are likely to conclude that the distribution pattern of the sales is similar. However, it may be observed that in firm A, daily sales are the same irrespective of the day, that is 5,000. Whereas there is less amount of variation in the daily sales for firm B and greater amount of variation in the daily sales for firm C. Therefore, different sets of data may have the same measure central tendency but differ greatly in terms of variation. Take one measure of variation is the range. The range is defined as the difference between the highest value and the lowest value in a set of data. And symbolically, it is indicated as R is equal to H minus L. Let us go to table 3, in which the daily sales data for the 3 firms are given. For firm A, range R is equal to 0 because 5,000, highest value is 5,000 and lowest value is 5,000. For firm B, the range is 305, highest is 5140 and lowest is 4835. Whereas in the case of firm C, the range is 11,200, where the highest is 13,000 and the lowest value is 1800. So we can interpret these findings as the variation is nil in case of daily sales for firm A, the variation is small in case of firm B, and variation is very large in case of firm C. The advantages of range: the range is very easy to calculate and it gives us some idea about the variability of the data. The second advantage is, within statistical quality control, the range metric serves as a crucial tool for assessing production stability. It establishes acceptable boundaries for product characteristics variations. Any deviations beyond this predefined range signal potential issues with the production machinery or process itself, prompting corrective action. Then next advantage is, meteorological department similarly leverages the range concept by calculating the difference between the maximum and minimum temperatures. They gain insights into daily temperature fluctuations. Range is also helpful in studying the variations in the price of shares and debentures and other commodities that are very sensitive to price changes from one period to another. The disadvantages of range are, the range is a crude measure of variation since it uses only two extreme values. Second, range is highly affected by fluctuations in sampling. Fluctuations in sample size can lead to a wider or narrower range of data points, potentially giving a misleading picture of the overall spread. The standard deviation is the most widely used and important measure of variation. It serves as a quantitative measure of dispersion within a data set. It reflects the average distance individual values deviate from the mean. A low standard deviation means the data is clustered close to the mean or average, and a high standard deviation means the data is scattered far from the mean. The standard deviation, also known as root mean square deviation, is generally denoted by the lowercase Greek letter sigma. In symbol, this can be expressed as sigma is equal to under root summation of x minus x bar whole square divided by n. Let us take an example of sales of potatoes that we discussed for calculating mean to explain the calculation of standard deviation. It is given in table 4. So for the month, there are 6 months from January to June. For the sales figure for conventional potatoes are given in column 2, and we already calculated mean for this. Then now we have to add a third column where that is a difference of individual eggs from mean. So by differentiating the individual from the mean, we get this value for January -5, for February 15, for March 5, for April -15, for May -25, and for June 25. Now, the last column, we have to square these differences. So when we square -5, we get 25. Similarly, we get the other values. Now we can substitute this value in the formula. Sigma is equal to under root summation of x minus x bar whole square divided by n. So here summation of x minus x bar whole square, that is 1750, and here we are getting the sample n, so not considering the population, so the value of n will be n minus 1. So under root 1750 divided by 5 is equal to 18.70, and that is a standard deviation for the given sample. The square of the standard deviation is called variance, and variance is denoted by sigma square. Advantages of standard deviation are it is a clear and well established definition. Standard deviation is relatively stable even when you take different samples from the same population. The standard deviation is most commonly used to measure variability, while all other measures have rather special uses. It is the only measure possessing the necessary mathematical properties like combined standard deviation to make it useful for advanced statistical work. There are certain disadvantages. First, calculation can be cumbersome. Second, sensitive to outliers. It magnifies the influence of extreme values in a data set. For instance, if a data point deviates significantly from the average, its square difference will have a much larger impact on the overall value compared to its raw difference. Then it is not suitable for comparing units. That means you can't directly compare the standard deviations of two data sets that use different units of measurement. For example, comparing the standard deviation of weights in kilogram to the standard deviation of price in rupees would not be meaningful. Now come to the another measure of variation, that is a skewness. The measures of central tendency and variation do not reveal all the characteristics of a given set of data. For example, two distributions may have the same mean and standard deviation but may differ widely in the shape of their distribution. Either the distribution of data is symmetrical or it is not. If the distribution of data is not symmetrical, it is called asymmetrical or skewed. So skewness refers to the lack of symmetry in distribution. A simple method of detecting the direction of skewness is to consider the tails of the distribution as given in figure 1. First, data are symmetrical when there are no extreme values in a particular direction, so that low and high values balance each other. In this case, mean is equal to median is equal to mode. See figure 1a. If the longer tail is toward the lower value or left hand side, the skewness is negative. Negative skewness arises when the mean is decreased by some extremely low values, thus making mean less than median than mode. See figure 1b. Next, if the longer tail of the distribution towards the higher values or right hand side, the skewness is positive. Positive skewness occurs when mean is increased by some used high values, thereby making mean is greater than median than mode. See figure C, 1c. In moderately skewed distribution, a relationship exists between mean, median and mode. The relationship can be expressed as mean minus median is equal to 1/3 of mean minus mode, or mode is equal to 3 median minus 2 mean. Now let's see curtices. So far in this session, we have discussed the statistical analysis often relies on measures like mean, variance and skewness to characterize data distributions. However, this matrix may not fully capture the underlying shape of a distribution. Curtices provides an additional dimension by quantifying the relative bigness of a distribution. You can refer to figure 3, where the degrees of curtices of a distribution is measured relative to that of a normal curve. The curves with greater bigness than the normal curve are called leptokurtic. The curves which are more flat than the normal curve are called platykurtic. The normal curve is called mesokurtic. A negative curtices value implies platykurtic distribution, and a positive curtices value implies a leptokurtic distribution. So now we can conclude the session, and in this session we have discussed the significance of mean, median and mode in summarizing the central characteristics of a data set. We computed various measures of central tendency to accurately describe the core characteristics of data. we calculated measures of variations like range and standard deviation to understand how spread out your data is. We explained the concept of skewness, and we also discussed the concept of kurtosis. Now you can check your progress. The question 1 is that the standard deviation tell us option A, the average of all the data points, B, how spread out the data is from the mean, C, the highest and lowest value is the data set, and D, none of the above. Second question is a data set with a low standard deviation means option A, the data points are very different from each other, B, the data points are clustered closely around the mean, C, there is an equal number of values above and below the mean, D, we cannot tell anything about the spread of the data. Question 3 is, if all the data points in a set are the same, the standard deviation will be A, very high, B, 0, C, equal to the mean, D, impossible to determine. Then fourth, what is the primary purpose of measures of central tendency in statistics? To identify the most extreme values in a data set, B, to calculate the total sum of all data points, C, to represent the central location of a data set with a single value, and D, to assess the variability of data within a set. The fifth question is, consider a data set with number ranging from 1 to 10, which measure of central tendency is most likely to be influenced by a single value of 20, A, mean, B, median, C, mode, and D, all of the above. So with this, we end this session. Thank you. Happy learning.